Fade in.
I need a username. And I have a great one. Little Kid Lover. That way people will know exactly where my priorities are at.
By the way, he gave me permission to touch him. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap.
No, God!
You shout like that, they put you in jail right away.
No, God, please, no! 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 No!
No trial, no nothing.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Journalists, we have a special jail for journalists.
How dare you!
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
Serious crap!
Any diverse woman in it, make it gay!
This is the first time that we see a woman, and the first time that we see a black woman in this area and this world.
But Mrs. Kennedy, Bambi's a baby deer.
Fuck baby dear, put a chick in it, make her gay!
I love nothing more than to be dragged out at every fucking conceivable opportunity so you can fucking current date us!
Sexism in gaming.
Fucking pronouns! Fucking gender ambiguity!
If I had a gun with 2 bullets and I was in a room with Hitler, Bin Laden, and Toby, I would shoot Toby twice.
No, that's
Okay,
you were
all
being
right.
really funny, and then you went too far.
It was bad. It was bad for Trump to meet with Nick and Nick.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come. You keep doing that, no one up here is gonna call you Donald Trump anymore. We're gonna call you Donald Duck.
Weird. Weird.
Fuck.
Are these proof of extraterrestrial life? The alleged remains of non-human beings were displayed in Mexico during its first congressional hearing on UFOs.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay calm.
everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
You serious?
If you don't like it, don't watch it. Peace.
Actually talking about there at the NRA meeting that's today in Texas. Someone should bomb that building.
Oh, you know it, lad. You know that Hassan Piker? I'm coming to kill you in Los Angeles at your house. Or in the ring? No, in real life.
Well, hey guys, it's been like a freaking minute since I've done a real live stream. To be honest, it's not that I haven't wanted to, I just really wanted to get my shit together before I even attempted it. So basically, there's a few topics I want to go over tonight. I know I'm kind of getting on later than I wanted to, and to be honest, it was worth it. My kids were doing like a a little Christmas. They were practicing Christmas carols. I know, we're one of those people. Literally, my family, when we get done with Halloween, we instantly put the Halloween decorations away, and then we get all like the Christmas stuff out. So yeah, don't shoot me, but we are those people. Anyways, yeah, so I was listening to the kids singing Christmas carols. They did like this little concert thing. It was pretty cute. Kind of cringe, but you know, that's kids, right? Anyways, let's go ahead and start in on our first topic. Again, I'm starting a little behind here, so I kind of feel like maybe we should just jump right into it. Let me see if I got my buttons all sorted out here. All right, I think we are in the right place. Here we go. So, I don't know if any of you even care about Marvel at this point. To be honest, most people don't seem to care about Marvel. It seems to be one of those topics that has just kind of like, you know, it's there. People make videos on it. People talk about it. People complain about it. Marvel keeps churning out the movies. And I look at it and go, you know, as like a social experiment, Marvel's kind of funny. Because it at the same time, people are either turned off by the movies or sick and tired of the movies, but they can't get enough of like the conversation around them. And I think there's a fair amount of it where people say that they're drawn to negativity. If it bleeds, it leads. And so, unfortunately, there's a certain amount of it where people are, by nature, fixated on train wrecks. They want to see the disaster. They want to see, you know, just how bad things really are. And so, the Marvels is no exception or no like outlier to this. I think honestly, after Endgame, most people kind of figured, okay, well, that's it. That was the end. And to be honest, Marvel really should have taken like a 10-year break, or instead of taking a 10-year break, they could have even just done like a sidestep. Let's say wait a couple years after Endgame and then go into the X-Men and then do a soft reboot, but work on developing new characters in a different universe, different timeline, whatever. So unfortunately, they chose to try to connect it all back together, even though they knew Robert Downey Jr. was the cash cow. So here we are now. So let's go ahead and get into this article. Let me see, do I have this all? You guys have to forgive me, I haven't used all these buttons, and I've had to swap out overlays and notification buttons and everything else, so just bear with me. In fact, I gotta make sure my microphone's working. Okay, it looks like everything's good here. God, it's been freaking forever since I've done one of these. So, from Slate, and I've got an article from Bounding into Comics brought up here as well, but I wanted to start with Slate because what's funny about mainstream media is for so long the mainstream media has kind of covered for Marvel, for Disney, for a lot of the studios. Basically, anytime you complain about a movie, it's that you're some sort of phobe or that you're just a bigot, misogynist, whatever. And people have been kind of, unfortunately, unfairly painted as being bigots when the reality is they just want a good movie. I think for most of us, it could be a movie full of women, full of diversity, and that wouldn't matter if the quality of the film was good. I mean, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but look, I grew up watching movies from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and there was never a lack of diversity in films, whether it was male to female ratio or different ethnicities that were present. It was never a topic that had to be talked about because things were done organically. Things were done where the story was written to tell, or the movie was written to tell a certain story, and the focus was on the characters, not on necessarily how they identified. Which, unfortunately, for most of modern Hollywood, is the box that they've kind of painted themselves into. I mean, that's where we are now. They are in a prison of their own making. They have done this to themselves. There's not a whole lot that they can do to dig themselves out of it because, honestly, I don't think they want to. Most of our major institutions, most of our media, most of our entertainment, whether it's video games, movies, comic books, music, they've all been captured by this, Elon would call it the woke mind virus. There's plenty of other things you can call it. But whatever it is, whatever has caused this, I don't think most of these major industries care as much about making money as they do about pushing a certain message. I mean, that's pretty obvious based on the movies that we have, the focus on people like Rachel Zegler, people who are just complete cringe, and all they do is, or Brie Larson, the comments she made about not caring about 40-year-old white guys' opinions, the animosity towards men as a whole, but in particular straight white men. There definitely seems to be a focus in Hollywood, in major media organizations, towards what would be the protected class, to promote more of a smaller group, the diversity group, push them to the forefront, if you will. So that's kind of why I want to work with articles like this from Slate. Yeah, we could go Bounding into Comics. That'd be, stereotypical. We'll get to that one eventually. But I want to start off with Slate because this is a more, it sends a stronger message when the people who are ideologically opposed to you are the ones finally saying things are bad. Shit's hit the fan. It's not getting any better, So let's go ahead and start with this article. It came out today, so that was from this afternoon, about 6 hours ago. So this is pretty up to date, pretty fresh. It says, Marvel just had its worst box office weekend ever. What happened? The most dominant franchise in the history of movies has taken its first major spill. This, first off, is BS. Again, this is why I want to use a Slate article, because this is not the first time that it's had its first major spill. Yes, this is a new low. Marvel is now at a new low point because this movie had the worst, not even adjusted for inflation, they didn't have to, but it had its absolute worst opening weekend ever. And the funny thing about that is I didn't even watch the Incredible Hulk movie that came out 2008, I think it was. I saw Iron Man in the theater because it was Robert Downey Jr., and he was one of those actors that I grew up with. And so for me personally, it was like, yeah, I want to see Robert Downey Jr. I want to see him have a career comeback because I loved his movies when I was younger. So this right off the bat is them being dishonest. The most dominant franchise in the history of movies has taken its first major spill. What about Ant-Man Quantumania? What about the Eternals? Like, are you being serious right now? Or taking his first major spill? Whatever. At least the guy's got a cool name, written by Sam Adams. So let's go on and read more of the article. It says, the most dominant franchise in movie history just had its worst weekend ever. The Marvels, the 33rd entry, 33 movies. Maybe this is the problem. Call me crazy. The 33rd entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe opened to an estimated $47 million at the domestic box office. A catastrophically bad showing for a series that had already been showing signs of strain. Yeah, no shit. That's less than half what Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania and the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 opened with earlier this year. Which is a weird comparison because they should have compared it to Ant-Man and the Eternals, which I think came out, 2022? Because at least Guardians of the Galaxy 3 made money. If you're going to compare it to other movies, you should be comparing it to other movies that flopped. And a staggering fall-off for a sequel to 2019's Captain Marvel, which earned over $1 billion worldwide. And again, no mention right there that it was sandwiched between Infinity War and Endgame. I would not have gone to see Captain Marvel. So here's the funny thing. I only loosely cared about Marvel movies. I watched like a half dozen of them. I saw the first few Iron Man movies, a couple of the Avengers movies, whatever. My wife and I managed to not actually have the characters that died in Infinity War spoiled for us for a solid year. I want to say it was a solid year. So Endgame was coming out. We had like a month until Endgame was supposed to be in theaters. And my wife and I were like, okay, if we're going to go do this right, we should catch up on all the other Marvel movies. So we had to watch Black Panther, Iron Man 3, all the Thor movies. We had to catch up on all of those, right? So we managed to cram like 24 Marvel movies into a month just to get ready to go see Captain Marvel and Endgame. We then went and saw Captain Marvel and Endgame back to back. I've never done this in my entire life. Never have I gone from one movie to the next. That was the most exhausting night. We went and saw Captain Marvel, I want to say it was like 9 o'clock, something around 9 p.m. And then we went back to the theater at midnight, and we were at the theater, I think, till 3 o'clock in the morning, watching Endgame. And, you know, after we got all done, it was like exhausting mentally, emotionally, because how sad the ending was and all that other crap. But the realization we both had was, oh my God, we could have skipped Captain Marvel. So, I mean, anybody can get duped into it. It's not like people were even vocally mad about it. We were just like, well, I could have skipped that movie. It was just worthless. I didn't need to see it. I thought it was required reading. I thought I had to see Captain Marvel to understand Endgame. Turned out that was not even necessary. So yeah, but again, no mention of it being sandwiched in there. It says it puts the Marvels dead last in the 15-year history of the MCU, out-flopping even 2008's The Incredible Hulk, which again, I've never even seen. Only a month ago, industry tracking predicted that the Marvels would open closer to 80 million than 40 million. So what went wrong? There are plenty of theories, ranging from the superhero fatigue that also afflicted The Flash and Shazam! Fury of the Gods. The latter had the worst opening for a theatrically exclusive release in the DC Comics universe. Yeah, I mean, Shazam, I'm sorry, I saw the first movie, thought it was cute, kind of funny, but I would never go to the theater to see the second one. To the fact that the actors' strike kept the movie stars Brie Larson, Teyonah Parris, and massively charismatic newcomer Iman Vellani from promoting the movie until the day before it opened. Nobody cares about promotion. Okay, they advertised the hell out of this movie. You can't go on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter right now without seeing a Marvel's ad or arguing with a bot with a Captain Marvel profile picture on Twitter right now telling you how amazing the movie is. Literally, there are bots on Twitter going around using the quotes from like the best comic movie ever made, or this is how comic books should be made into movies. Whatever the quote was, I think it was from Rolling Stone. I can't remember which the outlet was. But these quotes are being like tweeted as if these people are using them like their actual thoughts. And all they are is paid bots from Marvel. It's insane. But yeah, the whole thing about the actors' strike, not being able to talk, not being able to do like advertising or the press junkets. What about Oppenheimer? What about Barbie? Like, give me a break. Both those movies made shitloads of money. It had nothing to do with the actors' strike. So going on, it says it's likely those factors all played some part, as perhaps did a go woke, go broke. It's get woke, go broke. Come on. Conservative backlash aimed at a movie with a black female director, Nia DaCosta, and 2 women of color as protagonists. No, I'm sorry. People, the normies don't know who the director is of Captain Marvel or the Marvels or whatever. This is such a cope piece, it's not even funny. But superhero fatigue didn't stop Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse from making almost $700 million 5 months ago, and Barbie and Oppenheimer, the year's first and third biggest movies, respectively, both had their casts yanked off the promotional trail by the beginning of the strike. There it is. As for the backlash, although right-wing trolls may try to claim victory, it's unlikely that the audience that put Black Panther and Captain Marvel in the MCU's top box office hits has suddenly swapped sides in the culture war. No, they just don't care. You're missing the point. See, this article from Slate is basically channeling the whole culture war debate, when the reality is the normies are the ones who go see Marvel. Look, the left-wing lunatics on Twitter, they're not going to go see Captain Marvel or the Marvels. Sorry, I keep forgetting it's not Captain Marvel 2, it's the Marvels. Those people are few and far between. The majority of people, for them, the MCU ended when Robert Downey Jr. died, and they were done. It had nothing to do with politics. It was everything to do with the fact that the story came to an appropriate end. Whether you liked the idea that Robert Downey Jr.'s character died or not, you know, Tony Stark dying kind of sucked. Don't get me wrong. The reality is the normies are the ones who go see the Marvel movies, and they were done. He died. Case closed. It's over. Move on. They should have waited and rebooted later on. Numbers aside, maybe the Marvels is just bad, ? Of course it's bad. Most Marvel movies are bad anymore. It did, after all, get some of the worst reviews in Marvel history. The trouble with applying that logic to an opening weekend is that by definition, you're attributing theater-goers' behavior to knowledge that they don't possess yet. Bad movies open big all the time, and this one, as Sam Thielman wrote for Slate last week, has plenty to love, including well-staged fight scenes. No, I'm sorry, I've seen the trailers, I've seen the 2-minute clips, the fight scenes look like crap. An engaging rapport between its leads, that one may be fair. I've heard people say that the actual actresses in the movie are okay, like Brie Larson, Iman Vellani, Tona Paris, like they all do well interacting with each other. It's just the script that sucks, apparently. And lots of space cats. Yeah, space cats. That'll put asses in the seats, right? The movie's cinema score, which measures audience satisfaction, was a lowly B, but that rating has as much to do with expectations as it does with quality. It is fundamentally a reflection of whether moviegoers got what they thought they were paying for. I mean, maybe, I've said this before. I don't think, because the movie is sitting at like, I don't know, like a 70 to 80% based on how you do the audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think it's being positively review bombed. I also don't think it's being negatively review bombed. I think the people, because look at the numbers. The Marvels is not doing well in theaters, right? It's tanking. It's doing terribly. I think the reality is the only people giving it a positive review are the people that are going to go see it, and the people going to see it had an intention to go see it in the first place because they still cared about Marvel or still cared about the characters. I'm not saying they're being dishonest or disingenuous. I'm saying they're that consumer crowd that's easily pleased. And so they're going, oh yes, best Marvel movie since the last Marvel movie. And so for them, they go back and look at it and go, yeah, of course I loved it. It was the Marvel movie. What's not to love? It had Marvel characters, right? Even if they're not properly done is beside the point. It's still that consume mentality. And so I don't think they're being disingenuous or intentionally leaving positive reviews to a movie they hated. I think they're just easily pleased. I mean, let's be honest. I think it was, which director was it? Was it Tarantino that said that Marvel is more like a amusement park ride? It's more like a roller coaster than it is an actual film. It's not art. It's you know, big special effects and cheesy costumes. That's basically what it is. And for the most part, you can enjoy it if you just take it as what it is. Unfortunately, they've beat that drum so many times, people are just over it. So the article goes on to say, online I saw fans of the Marvels expressing frustration that the movie wasn't being taken on its own terms, but in the home stretch, Marvel stressed its interconnection to the wider storytelling universe, issuing a new trailer days before release that deployed Alan Silvestri's Avengers theme and teased a cameo by Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie. Great. So again, Valkyrie, a character that is nothing like the comic book version. Go look it up. Compare Tessa Thompson to Valkyrie from the comics. And basically, they tried to do this little moment. The fans are crazy. They've tried to ship Captain Marvel with Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie character. So now it's like, okay, you have this potential lesbian love interest at the, people are insane. I swear to God, they'll see things in places where it's just not there. But you take a movie that already has 3 female leads, 2 of which people have no idea about because they probably didn't watch the TV shows that both characters were introduced in, and then you throw a 4th female character in there that doesn't really have anything to do with the other 3's character story arcs, and you expect that to help boost the ratings. That'd be like if they were to tease Robert Downey Jr. in a movie, like Tony Stark coming back. That would instantly boost, I'd say, the film by 10%. You'd have at least 10% of people would be like, okay, if they're bringing him back, I have to see how they do it. People genuinely love Robert Downey Jr.'s character. I don't know that people genuinely love Valkyrie. The people that watch Miss Marvel like Kamala Khan. They said that she looks like a sweet girl. From what I've seen behind the scenes and the few clips I've seen, the character is her. Like, they did a very good job finding an actress who fits the character. That doesn't make the character good or that people are going to like it, but I think she's doing the best she absolutely can, and kudos to her. I have no ill will towards, even Brie Larson, I don't care. She's just an actress. It's Hollywood. The reality is, because it's Hollywood and it's all fake and it's entertainment, you have to take it for what it is. And if you're doing the same thing over and over again and people don't like it, you got to find something new. You got to give it a rest. And I think that's the ultimate conclusion that Disney needs to come to, is that we keep banging the same drum. Eventually, we're going to run out of money. We got to do something different. And I think they're eventually going to get to that point. I could be wrong, though. Let's see. That's right, Valkyrie. That's not to mention that Paris and Valani's characters would be familiar only to viewers of the Marvel TV show WandaVision and Ms. Marvel. Correct. As satisfying to its massive core audience as some of the MCU's individual movies have been, what has held the series together and fostered this unprecedented growth is a potent mixture of anticipation and FOMO. Right. Most people feel like they have to see the next movie so they don't miss out on something in the future. And again, that FOMO is over. Like I said, my wife and I watched like 20 Marvel movies, crammed them into a month and a half to get ready for Endgame. I haven't seen a single film of Phase 4. Not a single one. I watched WandaVision, started off interesting, turned to crap at the end. I sat through Captain America Winter Soldier, or Captain Falcon, I can't remember what his name is, Falcon Winter Soldier. Show bored me to tears. Then I got through Loki, and Loki ended on a high note. That was it. I haven't watched Loki Season 2. Oh, She-Hulk. I take it back. I watched She-Hulk. My wife made me watch She-Hulk because we wanted to laugh at it, and oh my god, worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Almost worse than the Willow TV show. But okay, so I've seen She-Hulk. I didn't watch the Hawkeye TV show. Didn't watch... Crap, there were other ones. Didn't watch Moon Knight. Didn't watch Miss Marvel. And I think there was one other one, right? There was... I can't... Got it. How can you even keep track at this point? I have no interest in seeing Loki Season 2. I just don't care. And not a single movie. I love Doctor Strange. By far my favorite MCU character. I skipped Multiverse of Madness. I heard it was terrible. And I read the plot synopsis and I'm like, no way. I'm not subjecting myself to this. So, that whole FOMO thing, in short, I think is gone. I don't think anybody's having FOMO anymore about the MCU. So in the 15 years since Nick Fury showed up at the end of the first Iron Man with a proposition for Tony Stark, Marvel has made mid and end credit scenes offering a taste of what is coming next practically mandatory for franchise films. Correct. On the rare occasion when an audience sits through 10 minutes of small print names without being thrown the expected tidbit, you can practically hear the air rush out of the room when the lights come up. Yeah, I mean, that's true. The Marvels includes a mid-credit scene as well, this one featuring the return of Kelsey Grammer's Beast from Fox's X-Men movies, yeah. But given that procuring the rights to the X-Men and Fantastic Four was one of the prime motivations behind the 2019 acquisition of what is now 20th Century Studios, God, man, write some shorter sentences. By Marvel's parent company, Disney, Grammer's appearance is less a surprise than an inevitability, executed with the smug panache of a spoiled TikTok kid showing off their latest haul. That's, I guess, adequate for Disney, right? Part of the trouble is that the teases are piling up faster than Marvel can pay them off. In the past 2 years, have been treated for fleeting appearances by Harry Styles' Eros. Oh yeah, I think he's Thanos' brother. Brett Goldstein's Hercules, Charlize Theron's wait, Hercules. Yeah, I didn't see Thor: Love and Thunder, so I didn't see that one. Charlize Theron's Doctor Strange. Plus the Marvel's Beast and Binary, a superpowered alternate universe version of the MCU's late Maria Rambeau. Who cares? And that's not counting the loose threads left by the 9 Marvel TV shows released over the same period. 9 TV shows, so I'm missing one. I can't remember what the other one is. But I've seen 4 of the 9, and 2 of them were absolutely horrible. The other 2 were just eh. WandaVision and Loki, I would say, are probably the best 2. The rest, I just couldn't care. That's a lot of setups, and with Marvel announcing Friday that it'll be pushing most of its upcoming movies into the 2025 and beyond, a long wait for the payoff. This is a long-ass article, not gonna lie. But the bigger problem is how rote and inessential those payoffs have come to feel. When Marvel was releasing movies at a pace of 2 or 3 a year, fans felt an obligation to keep up. And there was just enough of an overriding story to reward their loyalty without repelling more casual viewers. You wouldn't be entirely lost if you, say, skipped one Thor movie, but you might be confused about why he was suddenly hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, yeah, that is definitely a factor. And that was smart on Marvel's, planning to have movies like Thor Ragnarok, I think, had Doctor Strange meet Thor, or that wasn't in Doctor Strange. Maybe it was at the end of Doctor Strange, like an extra, like a post-credit scene. But I remember there is a Thor movie where Doctor Strange and Thor overlap, and they have it in both films. I mean, there are smart ways to do it, because you want people to go and see the next movie. You want them to be like, oh, wait a second, how did this character get here? Again, it's easier when you have characters people actually like and care about. But by releasing 69 episodes of TV, giggity, in a span of less than 3 years, Marvel made missing out practically inevitable. And that forced its fans to discover the one thing Marvel couldn't afford for them to know. It didn't matter. Okay, so this article starts off again with the typical like right-wing trolls, bigots, racist, blah, blah, blah. And then they actually get past all that crap. And it's funny. It's like when you talk to somebody who's super politically like, I don't want to say brainwashed because I hate that terminology, but somebody who's definitely tribalistic in their thinking, and they're dead set in their beliefs. And then after you get past the first few layers of insults and their, basically like their ideology, and then you get below that and you go, okay, what about this? And you start talking about like the meat and substance of an argument. You start to realize you have more in common. It's just you got to get past the ideology first to realize we're all the same people. Like, get past the politics and where you stand politically, and you got to realize these movies are just not good. And I think that's at least positive to see in these kind of articles. Let's see. Now I lost where I was at. Sure, if you haven't seen an episode of Hawkeye, you won't know who that bow-toting young woman Volani's Kamala Khan seeks out in the last minutes of the Marvels is. But how long will it be till we see either of them again, let alone arrive at the Miss Marvel Hawkeye team-up in the scene that the scene is hinting at? In the days before streaming and DVD collections, I was a methodical watcher of network TV shows, tuning in every week and taping when I couldn't, even keeping lists of episodes from the past seasons I could check off when they turned up in reruns. Because I was so invested in completism, I was loyal to a fault, sticking with shows I didn't even realize I stopped enjoying because I was so dedicated to my streak. Yeah, see, I stopped being that way about 5-6 years ago. Maybe longer than that. That Hannibal TV show. So freaking good. The first 2 seasons were some of the best TV I've watched in a long time. And that 3rd season, I got 4 episodes in and I was done. I was like, no way. I cannot believe how bad the show became like overnight. It was you have to watch it for yourself to understand. Hannibal season 1 and 2 were so freaking good. It seems like everything about the 3rd season was done by a different person. And so, yeah, I think some people have a harder time. My wife, she'll stick with the show way after it's gotten really bad, because she doesn't want to like give up on it. Me, the minute I start realizing it's not going to get any better, I'm done. I can't my time's too precious. I can't make myself watch something that I know isn't getting any better or isn't going to, I don't want everything to end the way I want it to. Let's not say that. For example, great TV show. The one with Steve Carell on Hulu. The Therapist. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was called The Therapist. Where he plays a psychologist or psychiatrist that gets kidnapped by one of his patients. Fantastic show. They definitely should not try to continue it. It was definitely a 1-season kind of show, and then it needs to be done. But one of the best shows I've seen in forever. If they tried to make a second season, I don't know that I'd be interested in watching it. Tucker, what you meowing about? Come here. Cat's over howling in the corner. But yeah. Yeah. The Patient, thank you. Why did I think it was called The Therapist? I know he's a therapist in the show. But okay, but it wasn't about him. It was about the patient. I hope they don't try to make a sequel. It's like, I don't care what happens to the guy now. The story's over. But anyways, it says Marvel has put its fans in the position of realizing that keeping up isn't worth the effort. They're unlikely to abandon the franchise as a whole, but the lackluster turnout for the Marvels suggests that they're feeling free to be a lot more selective than they've been in the past. To pick and choose, knowing the worst that could happen is if they catch up with a thing their friends liked a little bit late. That is true, and I think, honestly, the internet has made it where it's a lot easier to be like, okay, yeah, I want to watch this movie, but I don't have the time, or I'm curious about this show. But then you just like watch clips online or you read a synopsis here and there, and yeah, you don't get the satisfaction of watching it yourself. But at the same time, it's like, do you really need to spend the time watching it? All these movies are so formulaic, all the same. The shows are all the same. There's none of those moments that are like where you gasp and you're like, oh, I can't believe they did that. That's incredible. It's like that. No, there isn't any of that anymore. They're unlikely to abandon the franchise as a whole, but the lackluster turnout for the Marvels suggests that they're feeling free to be a lot more selective than they've been in the past to pick and choose, knowing the worst that could happen, yeah. Last week, Marvel announced it would use January launch of the TV series Echo, another show that nobody cares about, to debut a new subsidiary, Marvel Spotlight, to highlight stories with no connection to the Marvel Universe at large. I have a theory about that one. I don't think that they set out to make stories that weren't connected to the MCU. Now, one of the better things I've seen from Marvel recently, I want to say it was last year or 2 years ago, when they did that Werewolf at Night Halloween special, filmed in black and white like an old 1940s, 1950s horror film. It was really good. Like, no, it wasn't like earth-shattering, groundbreaking TV, but that Werewolf at Night show was actually really good. And it had no connection to the MCU. Obviously, it was a character that was not at all connected to the rest of the cinematic universe. But I think honestly what they're trying to do is they're just trying to figure out if they can break off from the MCU and still have viability. I don't think that they intended to have Echo or Ghost Rider or any of these other ones they're mentioning, Avenger or Fantastic Four, they don't intend to have them be separate from the MCU. They're just realizing we can't keep saddling everything to the MCU and expect it to do well. So they're probably thinking, if we call things Marvel Spotlight, we'll get somebody who may not be interested in the whole entire MCU to come and watch it. I don't think it's going to have the intended effect. If anything, I don't think it's going to have any effect at all. I think it's just going to be people are either going to watch Marvel content because they want to see Marvel content, or they're going to be done with it like most of us are. It says, just like comic fans didn't need to read Avengers or Fantastic Four to enjoy a Ghost Rider Spotlight comic, said Marvel's head of streaming Brad Winderbaum, our audience doesn't need to have seen other Marvel series to understand what's happening in the story. I mean, again, I like the idea, but I don't think it's why they're doing it. I think they're doing it as a test to see if they need to just completely get away from the MCU. Given that the series' title character was introduced in an episode of Hawkeye, Marvel could well have presented Echo as a spin-off, and in an earlier era, it almost certainly would have. But instead of stressing they needed to catch up, Marvel's now telling fans, whether current, lapsed, or potential, that they needn't worry about it. Come one, come all, just come please. I mean, that is kind of a stupid point to make, though. Okay, so Marvel has this new Spotlight thing. They want to do Marvel Spotlight. You don't have to watch the MCU, just watch this one character. But it's a character that we introduced in a TV show that's connected to the MCU. It just seems kind of like it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's the same thing. What the heck's the difference? Oh, and this is new. This actually is really interesting also. Again, kind of ties into... I could go through Bowning's article on the Marvels, but honestly, I think that other article from Slate was long enough. This one here is really interesting. In fact, let me see if I can find... There's an article I wanted to find here real quick. Hang on. Something I saw today about Kevin Feige apparently being on the hot seat. Let me see if I can actually locate this. Because as much as we all love that Kathleen Kennedy is getting fired every 6 months, it would be hilarious if Kevin Feige actually gets fired before Kathleen Kennedy. I wouldn't be shocked. Somehow Kathleen Kennedy has information on people that I think, Hillary Clinton would definitely be interested in. Let me see. Where is this rumor at? What's funny is I saw that apparently Kevin Feige was almost fired in 2015 until Disney's CEO stepped in. Let's see. There's a rumor that Kevin Feige is on the hot seat, but I'm not seeing it anywhere. That is so weird. Well, I know that Clownfish TV covered it. They talked about it. Apparently, Kevin Feige is on the hot seat, which wouldn't shock me one bit, given the fact that he literally is the guy running things where everything is just falling apart. Wait, that's weird. I should have tried to find that article earlier because I knew I wouldn't be able to find it on the spot. Oh, hang on. Let's go back to full screen. I mean, just where the hell are we at? There we go. Okay. Now apparently what we're seeing is Avengers Kang Dynasty scriptwriter Jeff Loveness is reportedly no longer working at Marvel, as studio likely going to be moving away from King the Conqueror. Now, this is one of those weird stories that I don't know if it actually has any merit at all. As far as what Jonathan Majors is accused of, I don't want to speak on the charges because that's a lot of he said, she said, and to be honest, I don't know. I wasn't there. People lie about things all the time. So do I want to claim that the guy did what the woman accused him of? No. I'm also not going to assume that she was lying. That's why I said I'm not going to comment. If they want to go to court and have a trial over that let them do it. Criminal conviction will obviously... A criminal conviction would land him in jail most likely, and if not in jail, it would definitely end his time with Marvel. But apparently now there's a rumor that... they're going to be pivoting away from Kang as the main villain, which they never should have done. They should have had freaking Doctor Doom or something, or Galactus as the villain moving into the next phase. If they were going to stick with the same current MCU group, I don't know why they decided King the Conqueror was the way to go. Hasn't panned out well. But apparently, what we have now, it says, while the studio has spent months maintaining radio silence on how they plan to move forward with their plans for the multiverse saga following Jonathan Majors' arrest for domestic assault, sources close to Marvel Studios have purportedly confirmed that they are likely going to be moving away from King the Conqueror as the Marvel Cinematic Universe's next big bad. It says, this insight into the MCU's future was first detailed by The Ringer's Joanna Robinson, perhaps best known to the public as one of the superfan authors of the recently published retrospective book MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios. Following a nearly 3-hour deep dive into the events of Loki's second season finale, which I need to look up because... Oh, interesting. Okay, spoilers, apparently, if you care about Loki. Looks like he plugs himself into, I would assume the seat where the one He Who Remains would be sitting. I don't know, the whole multiverse thing. Following a nearly 3-hour deep dive, Robinson and her co-host Mallory Rubin eventually broached the topic of the God of Mischief's new ability, as granted to him by his promotion to Overseer of the Multiverse to manipulate any event throughout space and time. Speculating that this power could be used to erase Kang from existence entirely should Marvel actually decide to drop Majors from their ever-growing roster of silver screen superhumans, Robinson then revealed a bit of information that suggests this outcome is more than likely. Finally addressing the Majors-shaped elephant in the room, Robinson recalled to her co-host, I actually heard from someone recently, so the screenwriter Jeff Loveness, who wrote Ant-Man, was supposed to write Kang Dynasty. I had it confirmed to me that he is no longer working for Marvel. I asked the person why, she further explained to Mallory, and they said the reason why is that he was all wrapped up in this Kang storyline and that they are likely going to be moving away from that. Attempting to head off speculation, Robinson closed out her scoop by affirming, so no official announcement that Avengers Kang Dynasty will now be called Doom's Dystopia or whatever. We don't know exactly what they're going to do, to be clear, but I think that this just gives them the perfect opportunity to just be done with the major situation if they want to be, which honestly wouldn't shock me one bit. So you got Kevin Feige on the hot seat, you got them not knowing what direction that they're going. The number one complaint people usually have too about Marvel movies is the villains suck. Everyone loved the Black Panther villain. What's his face? Michael B. Jordan. I couldn't stand him. I couldn't stand his acting. I thought he sucked. But everyone has always said, like, oh, he was the best, like, most developed bad guy. He had the best motivation. Okay. I get that part of it. I mean, I think Thanos had better motivation, to be honest. But I understand people saying that at least, I can't remember his name. That he at least had good motivation in Black Panther, fine. But honestly, I did not care about the character one bit. What time is it? It's already 10:30. Let's skip over the Hassan Ethan Klein crap, because to be honest, I don't want to talk about anything connected to the Israel-Palestine thing. I'm sorry. It's so depressing at this point. Let's talk about this instead. So, I am such a boomer when it comes to YouTube. I didn't ever watch this guy. I honestly, before 2020, I didn't watch YouTube for anything other than how-to videos, music videos. That was about it. If I want to look up lyrics to a song, how to fix electronic device, those kind of things, that's what I used YouTube for. I didn't know anything about YouTube culture, YouTube celebrities, YouTube live streaming, gamers, any of that stuff. I didn't pay attention to it. I was working, I was married, young kids at home, and I just didn't care. Didn't have time for it. So my introduction to this guy, the Completionist, was actually seeing him on G4, which, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't he still work? Or didn't he work at G4 up until the time that they shut down? So, the long story short, I was watching a video from Some Ordinary Gamers earlier. This dude lost his mom to dementia back in 2013. He helped start a charity that's supposed to be raising money for dementia research. As of this month, he's raised over $600,000 in donations for dementia research. Unfortunately, since 2014, the money has never left the account. It's still sitting there. And we're going to jump into this article here from, who are we got? Dexerto? All right. It says, the Open Hand Foundation, founded by Gerard Khalil, the content creator behind the popular YouTube channel The Completionist, and his family have been accused of not contributing any of its funds it's raised to any organization for dementia research despite claiming to do so. Now, I don't know if he's still maintaining that or not, but he just recently admitted to Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamer in an interview that the money hasn't left. It's still there. The money's all still in the same account. So I don't know who's saying that it's been donated. The accusations are coming from all angles as YouTubers, including Carl Jobst, I don't know, and Some Ordinary Gamers have uploaded detailed breakdowns of the situation after researching and communicating with the Open Hand Foundation. The foundation, which officially became a non-profit organization in 2014, reportedly raised over $600,000, but this money is allegedly still sitting in their bank accounts, minus different amounts every year that were just listed as expenses in the tunes of like tens of thousands. So I don't know if this article is going to go into it or not. Some Ordinary Gamer did a 38-minute video on this. Fantastic job, him and his buddy that put together the deep dive on it. Long story short, every year on the charities tax forms, there was a certain amount of money allocated for expenses. Now, again, if you're going to have a nonprofit, you really have to justify the things that you spend your money on because you're spending other people's money, claiming that it's tax exempt because you're doing it for charity. And so justifying it on your tax forms is a important thing to do, right? So every year they increased their money that was coming in by, originally it was like $10,000 in their account. Then it jumped up to like $20,000. I mean, basically it's gotten exponentially to the point where this charity's gotten bigger and bigger that within the last 3 years of their taxes, like 18, 19, 20, or 19, 20, 21, I think is the closest, most recent one they have. It got to where I think in their 2021, they got like $100,000 in donations. And their expenses were still like $11,000 for the year. Didn't list what the expenses were for. There are no full-time employees or full-time people volunteering. They had family members listed as contributing zero time, work hours. So where the $11,000, $12,000, $20,000 in expenses went each year is definitely a mystery. He also claimed, this guy, Jared did, that this Indieland event that they do, which is apparently he started it to raise money for the Open Hand Foundation, which is essentially their fund that's going to donate that money to another nonprofit, to donate it towards dementia research. It's a really weird way of doing it. What makes this really confusing to me is like, okay, it's one thing if you own, or if you run a nonprofit, you run a charity, and you just directly take your money and send it to something like the Red Cross or Blue Shield or Habitat for Humanity or something. That's one thing. So you collect the money, you send it on. That's fine. That's the way a nonprofit should work. But it's like they have this event, Indieland, which showcases like indie developers and indie games and stuff that raises money for the Open Hand charity, Open Hand Foundation, which raises money to send elsewhere. And the money has never left the account. And apparently, the guy that runs it said that some of the expenses were the Open Hand charity, the Open Hand Foundation, had to actually give money back to Indieland for operating expenses to run the event that's supposed to be raising money for Open Hand charity, for Open Hand Foundation. Like, these things, this is like Sam Bankman-Fried on a small scale, basically, using his money in two different brokerage accounts to make it look like they had everyone's money. It's not the way you run a freaking charity. And again, I would never want to run a nonprofit because the IRS would be breathing down your neck if you have anything filed incorrectly. So these guys better watch their ass. So it says for the past 10 years, they've raised over $600,000, and it's all just sitting in their bank account despite Open Hand saying the money goes to help fund research. And despite the fact that everyone believes their money is going to a worthwhile cause, this is simply not the case, Job states. Despite claims on their website and by Khalil that the foundation supports various organizations, including the University of California, San Francisco, who is listed as a benefactor on the actual paperwork for the charity, which is the weird thing. The Open Hand Foundation has the University of California, San Francisco as a benefactor, despite the fact that they've never given a dime of this money to the University of California, San Francisco. There is allegedly no record that a single dollar has been dispersed to any charity or research organization. It says, in 10 years of filings, they have not dispersed a single dollar to anyone. They have kept everything for themselves. And again, has the money left the charity's account? As far as these guys are saying, no. He said, this guy, Jared Khalil, says that every dime is still in there. But again, what about the expenses? What about the $20,000? Where did that go? If you have a charity, which is basically just a bank account that's not doing any work, the people that you have on the books report working 0 hours, what are your expenses? What are your overhead, your operating costs? He claims that Indieland, which is an event designed to raise money for Open Hand Foundation, had to borrow money from Open Hand Foundation just to operate. Well, other than that, why do you have operating expenses at all? You are just sitting there collecting money. You shouldn't have any operating expenses. You have nobody working. At least with a nonprofit, a charity, if you're going to have people working for you, running the charity on the books, like I've looked at charities' tax reports because of the whole Eliza Blue situation, Annie Donowald, Eve's Angels, that whole thing from way earlier this year. And at least on their taxes, they listed Annie Donowald and a few other people as getting paid by the charity, by the nonprofit, because they had to be paid for their time. So, you can't work for free. You have to pay your bills. But how do you have expenses totaling $10,000 to $20,000 every year when you have nobody working? It makes less than no sense. Article goes on to say, yet as Jobs points out, Kessler was fired from his role as dean at UCSF in 2007, a full 7 years before the Open Hand Foundation was registered as a nonprofit, leading many to wonder how or why the quote is even on the foundation's website. What quote are we talking about? Oh, I missed this part. Okay, hang on. I missed this part. So Jobst explains seeming discrepancies, such as the quote on the Open Hand Foundation's website from David Kessler, which states, I am deeply grateful for your recent gift to UCSF School of Medicine. You are supportive for frontotemporal dementia and related degenerative disease researches in blah, blah. Exactly. So how is it possible you have somebody, this David Kessler guy from UCSF, thanking them for their donation when they have not sent? You can look up their. It's a charity. You can look up their taxes. It's public record. They haven't sent a single dime to anybody, but you have this guy from UCSF claiming to be thanking them for their recent gift. Suspicious, right? Okay, so baffled by the findings, Jobst questioned the Open Hand Foundation directly to learn more about the situation. A response from Jack Khalil, Gerard's brother, claims that before their official registration as a foundation, they donated body parts for research and made... They donated body parts for research. What body parts did they donate? And made financial contributions to an institution that, in our view, made insufficient progress. There is no record of any disbursement of funds, however. As Job states, essentially Open Hand is claiming that because they made donations before they were registered in 2014, which we cannot confirm because it wasn't public at the time, this means it is acceptable to not pass along the money that the public has given them until they find someone they deem worthy. And that's the weird part. Part of this thing, and you should really go watch these guys' videos on it. Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamers, he did a great video talking about him and his buddies' research into this. The weird thing about it is they keep saying, well, we wanted to make sure we found a charity that was worth it. That was a worthwhile charity. So your mom dies of dementia in 2013. You start a charity in 2014. You then start collecting tens of thousands of dollars, which turns into hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of a few years. I mean, they're sitting on $650 right now, okay? No, it's not millions of dollars, but it's a chunk of change. That money is still sitting there, and in his interview with Mudahar and Jobst, he said, oh, well, you know, it's going to look suspicious now if I just donate the money, but if you guys have an idea about where I should donate it, why don't you tell me? These guys are journalists. They're YouTubers. They're not there to tell him how to donate the money. They're sitting there on this pile of cash saying they don't just want to donate expenses. They don't want to pay some researcher's salary. But literally part of what you pay for, or part of what you donate money towards when you're doing charity work, is to pay the researchers that are doing the actual scientific research. Those guys don't work for free. So if you're running a charity, you should be smart enough to realize you don't just say, oh no, we're going to give 100. Look at the episode of The Office, the rabies episode, right? The Michael Scott Fun Run Pro-Am Race for the Cure, where they write out their check to rabies or rabies research. You know, the reality is you pay the researchers because you have to pay for their time and their effort and their use of the machinery and their testing and their lab costs and everything else. So this guy, Jared Khalil, wants to claim, oh, we didn't just want the money to go $20,000 at a time to pay some researcher's salary. Why not? That's literally what you pay for when you're doing a charity. You're paying to have researchers take the time to research something. It's a complete bogus cop-out. Let's see. So Jobst and Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamers spoke with Gerard Khalil, who claimed he was unaware until 2021 that the funds had not been forwarded to any organizations and has since been trying to find a place to send the money. I guarantee you, I can look up 10 reputable dementia research foundations where you could send the money to in a matter of 10 minutes. I could Google search it and find you 10 places you could send that $500,000 to if you actually raised it for charity. This is such a bogus thing. So he didn't know until 2021 that his charity that he helped found was sitting on $650,000. But now he's all like, "Oh, I didn't know. I got to find somebody reputable." Why didn't you have a place, a destination in mind when you started the damn charity in the first place? Like, think about this. This is crazy. This is like, okay, so I'm pro Second Amendment. All right, so I'm pro Second Amendment. I know of the Firearms Policy Coalition. So if I start a charity that's, a Second Amendment charity, we're going to raise money to, help defend our Second Amendment rights. I'm going to send that money to the Firearms Policy Coalition because I know that they do good work. Bam, done. Took me 5 seconds to think of that. If you are this heavily invested in raising money for charity for dementia research, why would you not have a charity or a research facility or something in mind when you started your charity in the first place? That is such a BS cop-out. And that leads to the important question of whether the money is still there, to which Jobst added, Gerard assures us they still have the full amount of money and are looking to donate it as soon as possible. However, due to Open Hand's past dishonesty, I think we do need concrete proof of this donation when it happens. Gerard or the Open Hand Foundation is yet to publicly comment on the allegations. And that's the thing too, because this is where they'll get into a lot of trouble with like the IRS and the government. Being a nonprofit, a charity, if they don't have every penny other than the expenses that they never justified that they paid out, if they don't have every penny aside from expenses still in there, they're screwed. Like even if it's $100, you can't screw around with pulling money out of a nonprofit, especially when you've been sitting on it for that many years claiming that you just don't know who to send the money to. That's like, Oh, I'm sitting on $400,000. My neighbor's house just burned down. I like the idea of, everyone deserves a house. I wonder what I should do with this money. I just can't figure it out. I can't think, I wish somebody could tell me what to do with my money. What a stupid thing to say. Ugh. Yeah, and they've done all these charity streams through this Indieland place as well, where they've done, every subscriber, every bit donated on Twitch, all this stuff is going to go towards this research facility. What state is it in? I don't know. Open Hand Foundation. I should do this. You can look it up. Let's grab this tab and take it over here a second. All you need is their EIN number, and you can look up pretty much any charities, taxes. I didn't have time to pull this up. My kids had me so preoccupied before I got on here. I didn't have time to do any research on this stuff, unfortunately. Let me see. Open and charity. I wonder if I can just find their taxes. In accordance with the IRS regulations, contributions are fully deductible, blah, 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 blah. Here it is, ProPublica. Hopefully they don't try to charge me. Okay. Yeah, no kidding. And I'm not even a fan of the IRS. I don't like taxes. I hate paying taxes, but I pay them. They're in Torrance, California. Tax exempt since August 2014. I'll bring this back over here now. Let's see, can I throw this in here? Here we go. So, designated as a 501c3. Revenue in 2014 was $33,000. I gotta remember this website. This is a great website. And again, so they have, let me see. Is this their full file? Yeah, view filing. Let's look at their 2021. Because this is the one I think that they got like 100. Revenue and expenses per books, 136,000. Professional fees, I think is this one here, 11,000. Other expenses, 18,000. So their total operating and administrative expense for 2021 was $29,000. They brought in 136. So excess of revenue over expenses and disbursements was 106,789. Beginning of the year, they started off at 442. So with that added in, they basically ended the year at $549,000. Just crazy. But again, they didn't pay anybody. Oh, that is true. You're right about that. Okay. It just blows my mind. And this is unfortunately the thing that gives a lot of people pause when they go to donate to anything. And it sucks because if you want to donate to somebody and you want to donate to some charity that's near and dear to your heart, let's say you lost somebody from dementia, you lost somebody from heart disease, and you want to donate something to the National Heart Association or whatever. Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. You want to make sure that your money is at least being used. I mean, like, think about all those places. Hey, Valiant Tyrant, how's it going? Sorry if you've been on there a while. I'm not looking at Rumble all the time. I've been going through this tax filing here. If you want to donate to something and feel like your money is not going to get, screwed around with, this kind of stuff just completely takes the wind out of your sails. It makes you feel like you can't trust anybody, which sucks. I hate the idea that you can't trust people. And unfortunately, in reality, you just can't. Like, with life, you just cannot trust anybody. Other than, like, your mama and your wife or your kids. That's about all you can do. And so many charities, so many NGOs. I was made aware of this by somebody last year, I want to say. I didn't really understand how NGOs operated. But the idea that, on paper, the U.S. sends 40 million in aid or 80 million in aid to India, right? And if you just believe what it says on paper, it's like, well, why are we giving them so much money? But then you talk to somebody in India and they're like, no, that money doesn't go to us. That goes back to your politicians in your own country. And then you start actually like tracing it back and it's true. You don't trust your mama, Valiant? Well, I work with my mom. I trust her. We don't get along all the time, but I trust her. That being said, I know a lot of people who probably don't trust their mama. And it's okay. I got a brother I don't talk to. I wouldn't trust him to save my life at this point. I got to do another deep dive on Eliza Ballou, but not Eliza. I'm so over that girl. The chick that I did a video on earlier this year, Annie Donewald, because she ran a charity and I went through her taxes. And very fishy gal. You know, claimed to be a survivor of trafficking and turned out she was just a hooker. And then she was making a living grifting off of hookers for Jesus kind of stuff. Kind of like that other gal, Annie Lobert, I think her name is. I bought their books. I have to spend the time reading them. I don't hate myself enough to subject myself to that. Oh, yeah, I think that's enough with the taxes. But yeah, it's just sad. Like, honest to God, I wish the world wasn't so full of scummy people. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. Yeah, okay, hang on. Our benefactors. Benefactors. Yeah, they have it. I'm surprised they still have this on here. So they have the University of California, San Francisco still listed as a benefactor, even though they've never donated a dime publicly to them. It says on here, for almost 20 years, the UCSF Memory and Aging Center has been providing model care for patients and their families, finding innovative ways to understand and discover treatments for neurodegenerative diseases and reaching out to the wider community to raise awareness about these diseases of aging. The UCSF Memory and Aging Center has grown from a single faculty member in 1998 into a major center for dementia care, research, and education. Today, the UCSF Memory and Aging Center employs over 250 talented faculty and staff and enlists the support of more than 40 volunteers. That's a lot of people to pay. Why wouldn't Jared's charity have sent them the money if they said that they're a benefactor with all that? I mean, oh yeah, Annie Lobert, she's a blast. Most charities are laundering scams. It sucks. It really sucks. I hate it, but it's true. Like the fact that most charities don't tell you that what really happens with your dollar you donate, every dollar you donate, 5 cents goes to one of the kids. And it makes you wonder, it's like, if they could operate, if those children, if they actually do, feed and clothe children in some third world country, right, with your dollar you donate, if they could feed them for 5 cents off of your dollar, where does the other 95 cents go? I totally respect that, Valent. It's one of those things that if I could just stream to Rumble instead of YouTube, I probably would, just to be safe. Because then you have a little more freedom to talk about whatever you want to. When I do stream to YouTube and Rumble at the same time, I have to be very careful what I talk about and how I speak. You're lucky if 5% goes there? Yeah. It really sucks. Why not at least use the money to give to families caring for their elderly family? Oh, so that was another thing. Honestly, I didn't just want to watch some Ordinary Gamer's video on it because I don't want to deprive him of the views. But he went through that on his video talking about this whole thing. Like, what about, if it was intended to be money that was raised for treatment of dementia, it was also meant to be used to help support families who are struggling taking care of dementia patients. From what you've seen, the norm is 3%. I mean, that's the really interesting one. Hang on a second. I'm gonna grab one of these browsers I have open and take a look over here. I'm curious. I started doing a deep dive earlier this year on a organization called the Parsimus Foundation. They were doing a lot with treatment of alternative treatments to the horse medicine, if you know what I'm saying. And they conducted studies on 3 different medications, but didn't test them all equally. And then when you trace their funding, it goes back to people who have investments in other pharmaceutical companies, if you catch my drift. And so there was a lot of it. I've got all my browser tabs saved. I've never made a video on it. I've thought about it 1,000 times. So I'm like, I don't think it would ever fly on YouTube. But it is pretty sketchy when you start seeing how these people operate. Let me see. Red Cross CEO salary. Okay, so in 2019, says this person, Gail McGovern. Let's go ahead and bring this over. Hang on, let me open this in a new tab, because they don't have enough tabs open apparently. All right. Red Cross statement on inaccurate viral email on charity CEO pay. Oh, that's funny. What did it get leaked? It says for the past 11 years, Gail McGovern has served as president and CEO of the American Red Cross, and in 2018 she was paid $694,000, which reflects her leadership of the country's largest humanitarian organization. McGovern is responsible for delivery, blah blah blah. Okay, so there's your answer right there. $700,000 just to the CEO of the Red Cross. Okay, that is nuts. And I'm not saying people shouldn't be paid in, equivalent to what their job is. I'm all for capitalism. I'm all for people getting paid fairly for, hard days work and all that. I'm not a communist at all. But damn, Salvation Army's CEO got paid $132,000 per year. CEO of St. Jude's. Oh my God. Holy look at this one. The salary of the CEO of St. Jude is $1.3 million per year. $1.3 million. I mean, okay. Bob Iger got, what, a $23 million contract during the actors' strike over at Disney. Is it $23 million a year? I can't remember. Some crazy shit, right? Crazy amount of money. So that being said, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, I don't really blink an eye at how much they make because it's just ridiculous money. It is what it is. It kind of goes with the territory. Yeah. So $27 million a year is what he's estimated at getting right now. Oh, wow. 27 million? Shit, pay me $500,000. I know. But when you look at these kind of numbers, one of the largest, children's hospital charities that's out there, getting paid $1.3 million per year, doesn't that seem excessive? Hence the word service implying volunteer work. Right. So, I kind of look at it like this. If there's a lot of people who say like pastors shouldn't get paid, I disagree, especially if it's a full-time job. I don't think a pastor should get paid enough money to like have a Tesla and a Jaguar and Rolex watch and all that, especially if you're doing it for the right reasons. At a point, more money is pointless. Yeah, 100%. But pastors do have to get paid if they're working full-time. Same goes for charity workers. If you're working full-time helping run a charity, I have no problem with you making money. It's not the issue of making money that I'm having a problem with here. It's the idea that you can make so much money doing what is essentially not really any more work than anybody else. I don't know. I've never been a CEO, but based on what I've seen between Marvel, Disney, Lucasfilm, all these other companies where all these people do is screw up and still get rewarded for it, I think I would like to take a crack at being a CEO for a day. Let me have the job for a week. Throw me into the fire, the frying pan, jump in head feet first. I'll give it a try. And if I can't make it, fine, whatever. But it's like at some point, I fail to believe that these jobs are so difficult that people deserve the kind of money that they're getting, especially if it's charity work. Oh God. Ugh. And then there's this. Do we even want to talk about this? This is a horrible story. I absolutely hate this, but I figured it was worth mentioning today, especially while we're talking about charity and people's health and things that are actually, you know, beneficial. I don't know if you guys saw this. This is just awful. So this is a child over in, I want to say the UK. I think, yeah, in a British hospital, who was just removed by the British health system from life support, essentially, against the parents' wishes. They were planning to take the child to Italy for, I'm not even sure if it was experimental treatment. We'll go through the article, but it was for life-saving treatment. And basically the British medical system said, nope, it would be unfair to the child to give the child a chance at living. Make a living wage, even a good wage, but public service should be paid on results. 100%. Everything should be paid on results, really. So, story goes, little Indy Gregory has died after a British hospital yanked her life support over her parents' objections after a court rejected their plea to let her live. A UK appeals court ruled that a hospital can proceed with ending Indy's life-saving medical care despite her parents' desperate efforts to get her to a hospital that would provide it. The hospital removed her life support yesterday and Indy died this morning. Okay, yeah, she was 8 months old. Says the 8-month-old Gregory died in her mother's arms in a hospice at 1:45 a.m. on November 13th, according to British advocacy group Christian Concern. Oh yeah, sorry, Speak Life. This is a terrible one. I had it pulled up here and I'm like, you know, I would feel bad if I didn't bring this one up. Indy's parents say they are angry, heartbroken, and ashamed. The NHS and the courts not only took away her chance to live a longer life, but they also took away Indy's dignity to pass away in the family home where she belonged. Claire and I are again disgusted by another one-sided decision from the judges and the trust. The whole world is watching and is shocked at how we've been treated, the child's father, Dean Gregory, said. Yeah. Indy suffered from a rare degenerative mitochondrial disease. I haven't heard that word, mitochondria, in a long time. Holy crap, I gotta brush up on my science. She had been receiving life-sustaining treatment on a ventilator at Queen's Medical Center in Nottingham, England. As Life News has reported, a Vatican hospital had stepped up and agreed to provide care for an 8-month-old baby Indy Gregory, where a British court ruled her life support could be revoked even though her parents are fighting for her life. But that was not enough for the parents of this little girl to get a British appellate court to rule in their favor. Indy's parents got her baptized after a UK appeals court ruled a hospital could yank her life support without their consent. After that decision, Indy's parents, who are not religious, have decided to get their daughter baptized, saying they have seen the pole of hell in this entire spectacle, with the courts denying their daughter the care she needs and blocking their efforts to transport Indy to an Italian hospital for appropriate care and treatment. When I was in the court, I felt as if hell pulled at me, said Dean Gregory, Indy's dad. I thought that if hell exists, then heaven must exist too. Hey, Tucka, baby. Leave your sister alone. My cats are neutered, their brother and sister, but my boy cat gets this wild hair up his ass once in a while. Hang on. Hey, leave your sister alone. Gotta make sure he doesn't. He starts biting her neck and he's like giving her like sore spots and stuff. He said it was like the devil was in there too. I thought that if the devil exists, then God must exist also. I have seen what hell is like and I want Indy to go to heaven. In fact, Dean says that he's decided he should also be baptized. We want to be protected in this life and go to heaven. Dean praised the testimony of a Christian volunteer who has visited Indy every day and who told him the baptism opens heaven's gates. He also noted the work of his legal team provided by the Christian Legal Center. Well, I'd like to believe that an 8-month-old would go to heaven even without being baptized, but you know, whatever. So here's the meat of it. It says, Indy suffers from a rare degenerative mitochondrial disease and has been receiving life-sustaining treatment on a ventilator. We've already... Did they literally copy and paste this twice? No, okay, it's just they re-quoted it again. Hang on. Claire and I are again disgusted by another one-sided decision from the judges and the trust. The whole world's watching. No, that they literally had that in there. Weird. Claire and I have always wanted what is Indy's best interest. She has human rights, and we wanted to have her the best treatment possible. In the UK, if the UK did not want to fund it, why can she not go to Italy and receive the treatment and care which the amazing Italian Prime Minister and government has offered? This feels like the latest kick in the teeth, and we will not give up fighting for our daughter's chance to live until the end. Hey, Daniel, how's it going? It's funny, there are now 2 Daniels here. I know, I go by Tebow because of my gamer tag and all that, but like literally it's like, no, I'm just boring-ass Daniel. Well, that's cool, Daniel. Appreciate it. I know that you are on the other side of the freaking world, right? Aussie time, the place that doesn't exist. No value for life or parents' rights. It's horrible. I mean, honestly, would escaping to the U.S. have even mattered? So here's the thing. Without getting too controversial for YouTube, I'm not promoting violence, not inciting violence or whatever. But one of those things about being in the U.S. is and again, I don't know that this would have even mattered. Let's say, here we have the Second Amendment. Okay, so you're not going to stop me from taking my daughter out of this hospital. Okay, but what if she was on life support at the hospital, and if you moved her, she would die? So there's that situation. There's that problem. You don't really exist closed set in Arizona. Nice. You would choose a chance over just pulling the plug. But again, here's the thing. This is where you get to the socialized medicine side of it. This is where you get to the side of it where once the government has ultimate control over your life, you're at the mercy of the government. And the Ronald Reagan quote, about how, the most terrifying thing is having someone from the government saying, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. That is definitely very, very true these days. It might have been cheesy at one point, but unfortunately, that's where we are now. Hanging in upside down land, yeah. By hospital staff here in the U.S. Exactly, Valiant. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, even here in the U.S. where you think, okay, well, here we can at least muscle our way through it because here we got the Second Amendment and we have rights and freedom of speech. It doesn't really matter. It truly doesn't matter, especially if you're at the mercy of getting your child out of the country on life support to another hospital. What are you going to do? Like, how do you get your child safely from point A to point B without the help of the medical institutions? You can't. And then when the government tells them you can't help them, the doctors are not going to put their asses on the line. They're not going to be like, oh, the government be damned, we're going to get this child out, sneak him out in the middle of the night. That doesn't happen in real life. Let's see. It's all about the money, yeah. Spirit of America and people that I love for whatever reason. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Daniel. To be honest, there is a certain element to that here. Look, I've had the same job my entire life. I've always worked with my family. I've thought about doing a different thing a million times. Now I've got a wife and 3 kids that are almost close to teenagers. So the thought of starting a different job or doing something different doesn't appeal to me. My job pays my bills. That's all that matters. But if I truly wanted to do something different, I have the freedom to just get up tomorrow and go get a different job. I have the freedom to get up and move to a different place. Yes, we have our rights being taken away here too, but there is still a certain spirit of the American dream, if you will, that does exist. I mean, I truly wouldn't pick a different country to live in other than maybe Poland. I feel like I could get along with the Polacks pretty good. Oh, yeah. Do it by ways you can't say on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, there's that. There is that. Let me see here. So it says the pro-life legal group Christian Concern, which is representing the Gregory family, also condemned the ruling. It says, what's up? You're good. What's up? Per ticket? Altogether. How much are the tickets individually? We're planning possible Christmas present for our children. So we're trying to figure out taking a trip to Arizona. But that's contingent on not costing thousands of dollars, I think. $265. And how much for tickets? Oh. My wife wants to take our oldest to a NASCAR race because he's like obsessed with NASCAR, and so they've never been on a plane. They've never gone really on a vacation other than like when they were all really little, and trying to figure out something in March. Irish are pretty good at not putting up the BS. I mean, they are doing a good job fighting back against the whole immigration thing, to be honest. Unfortunately, not enough. None of the UK. Like, it's crazy that Germany's at a point where they're doing more to deport people than freaking England is. The UK is like, I don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't see you for your leaders. We all have to. Yeah, that's the thing, honestly. Can we be honest about that? Look, I have some spicy opinions about the whole Israel-Palestine thing, and I'm not getting into that on here. I have no problem with people that are like, support Israel because that's the right thing to do. Okay, I'm cool with that. If that's where you fall. I also am on the side of, I don't want innocent people on either side killed. Hamas is bad, they're evil. It's like, I've got very normie opinions. I just don't like to jump on one side or the other without knowing the facts. And so, in my opinion, Israel's government sucks. I do not like Israel's government. Doesn't mean I'm pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas. I just don't like Israel's government. I also don't like my own government. It's like there are people on Twitter who call me like, oh, you know, Hamas supporter. I'm like, dude, Hamas can go to hell. Like, literally, I do not care if any of them make it out of this conflict. I do not care. I'm just not going to fully endorse everything Israel does because Israel's government is horrible, you know? Doesn't mean I want any of them to perish. I think Israel has a right to exist. I think they have a right to defend their country, their borders. Israel was there first. Like, I've got very traditionally normal views on most of it. I just don't like their government. And for some reason, that gets me in trouble when I say it. I don't understand why people think that, especially in America here, in the US, we are very suspicious of our own government for very good reasons. But anytime you question, like, Israel's government, people label you like a terrorist supporter. I'm like, no, I'm saying apply the same logic to both. Yeah, I mean, Daniel, you're probably better off for it, but can I be honest? This is a horrible thing to say because I'm not that person where I'm just trying to engagement farm on Twitter. It is funny to see the amount of engagement you can get by posting a meme on Twitter about this conflict. Like, even if you don't have any, like, hard opinions on it, or if you're more like, you know, tough decisions are made at almost all cost lies. Yeah, it's true. Feel like a nasty, abusive divorce, both sides using the children. I don't want to be involved. I mean, I think, honestly, most of us can definitely... I mean, here's my more nuanced opinion. Look, as a human, do I want anybody to suffer? No. Do I support genocide of anybody? No. I think all war is bad, all war is evil, and unfortunately, good people die in every war. But unfortunately, I have little control or care as an American what happens in Ethiopia. I have little care what happens in Uganda. I have little care what happens in Zanzibar or Zimbabwe or any other country where two sides are killing each other, but we have zero involvement in it. We can't fix it, so I'm not going to stay up at night worrying about it, you know? But because of this Israeli conflict being a country that's supported by the US, we instantly have an invested, like, interest in it. So for me, if we didn't have our money invested in Israel, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, okay, do what you do, because I don't feel responsible for it. It's the fact that our money in the tunes of billions of dollars are going over there, and then people are dying. I guess if that makes sense, you know? If I didn't have my country supporting money to either side in a conflict, what can I do about it? I can sit here and worry about I hate story. Like this poor little girl here. It's a horrible story. I have no control over what happens, you know? Let's fix ourselves first and the rest do their thing. There you go. We can't even secure our own freaking border. I mean, my God. Like, when did these become like extremist takes that, you know, we should have a border and a national identity? That's it. Literally, because I was arguing with somebody online about what makes somebody Scottish or what makes somebody Irish or even Jewish. Because Jewish, you could have Jewish religion, Jewish culture, Jewish ethnicity. You don't have an American ethnicity. We are a combination of different groups of people. Yeah, you could say we have like a European culture in our heritage, or, you know, Native American, or the African slaves that were brought here and all stuff. But there's no such thing as American ethnicity. Whereas in England, you can be English or British, you know? Or Australian. You can be Australian ethnically, because there's been so many centuries of European people that live in Australia having children over and over again. But you can't be ethnically Australian if you're an immigrant to Australia. You can be an Australian citizen, but you cannot be ethnically Australian. They love making money with weapons? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Anglo-descendant, 100%, Daniel. And that's the point I was trying to make about, it was the guy that they have in Doctor Who now. The black guy he was born in Rwanda, but he's lived in Scotland since he was like 3. So if somebody was trying to tell me he's no different than somebody who was Scottish ethnically that was born in Scotland, I'm like, no, he 100% can be a Scottish citizen. He's Scottish in the fact that he's a citizen of Scotland. But he can never be Scottish. He can never be ethnically Scottish. And there is a difference. There is a massive difference, especially in any country that has a 1,000-year-old or at least a 5 to 6 century old ethnic identity based on not just where they're from, but their shared culture. I mean, shared culture is a huge thing. Hey, you know what, Valiant? Here's my opinion, and I've been told I'm full of shit on this one. I was born here. I was born in the US. I'm indigenous. Literally, that's all it takes. Indigenous, you're from here. I'm not from anywhere else. Sure. 3 generations ago, my grandfather came, or my 2 generations ago, my grandfather, one of them came from Sicily. So I have roots to Italy. I've got roots to Ireland. I've got roots to France and Denmark and all these crazy places. But I was born here. My parents were born here. My parents' parents, except for my grandfather on my mom's side, were born here. I'm indigenous. That's all it takes. I'm not from anywhere else. This is where I'm from. It's so idiotic. Just all this conversation. I mean, Daniel, what else is there? Literally, what else is there to being indigenous other than this is the land I'm from? I'm not from anywhere else. You know, in the same way that a black man that's born here is from here and a Native American that's born here is from here, we're all indigenous to the US. You were born somewhere. Well, you have to be born somewhere, so if you were born somewhere, that's where you're from. That's the way it works. I'm going to finish out this article real quick here. So let's see. It says the pro-life legal group Christian Concern, which is representing the Gregory family, also condemned the ruling. The ruling was made despite Indy being granted. This is the sick part about this. The NHS over in England. The ruling was made despite Indy being granted Italian citizenship, and yesterday her Italian guardian making an urgent application to UK High Court calling on Mr. Justice Robert Peel to cede jurisdiction of the case to him under Article 82 of the 1996 Hague Convention, it told Life News. Andrea Williams, chief executive of the Christian Legal Center, called out British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, a member of the Conservative Party. No, he's not. No, he's really not, for not speaking out in Indy's defense. There's no meaningful difference other than politics, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I've got ancestors from all over, but I'm not from anywhere but here. So it says, what good reason can there be to detain Indy here against the wishes of her parents when treatment is being offered in Rome? The developments lay bare the difference in approach between two nations when the Italian Prime Minister has been public in her support of Indy Gregory and the right of her parents to access treatment in Rome, and the British Prime Minister has remained silent. Now, here's the crazy thing, guys. This is the weird part. People would have you believe, now, I was pretty happy with Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, when she first got elected. Now I'm kind of like less enthused the more I learn about her. It's like, nah, she's another one of these WEF puppet gals, whatever. But at least she's over here, the freaking Prime Minister of a foreign country, granting this child citizenship to come over and get treatment, and this child's own Prime Minister can't be bothered to do anything to save her life because the holy NHS over in England, honest to God, if you watch Lotus Eaters, Carl Benjamin, all they talk about all the time is how much money goes to the NHS and how people worship the health system over in England, and it's crap. It's worse than the US here. Yeah, the dead internet. So I was talking to my in-laws about that too, about how people say the internet's dying. I don't think the internet's dying. I think the problem is we're all out of money. I mean, the internet exists off of freaking ad revenue, and even the big corporations, the one that spend money on ads, are spending less these days. I need sleep. I need sleep. We all need sleep. Honestly, I was planning on being done by 11. I got on a little bit late, so I'm doing all right so far. You think you saw it on Twitter? That's where I found it from. I can't remember who talked about this, or I saw somebody link an article on here, so that's where I snagged it from, was Twitter. It's sick. The medical system decides that a child, it was something about dignity of life or dignity in death or some crap. The NHS used this excuse to say, basically, she's not being given good quality of life in this situation, so rather than grant her the ability to access medical care somewhere else, we're just going to kill her. I mean, that's literally what they did. Ad revenue is wrecking everything. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's kind of where we are. Look at all the streaming services. Look at all the big, TV shows and movies, and everything benefits the most from ad revenue. And when nobody has the money to spend on ads, we all suffer. Everybody suffers. The entire internet suffers when less ad revenue is being made, because people that rely on it for a living have to find other things to do. Yeah, no, they don't value life. It's funny. The medical system you would think would be the one that values life the most, but unfortunately, they don't. Daniel, did you see that story here in the U.S. about those 15 kids that kicked and beat that one 17-year-old to death? I think he was 17. It's unfortunate because that could literally happen in any country in the world. And that's where I say I don't think that's like an American thing. It's just a lack of humanity thing. Now it's in the hands of idiots. I'm not an Elon fan myself, so I'm on board with you there. I like certain things Elon has done. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. And I think a lot of the things he's done on Twitter are complete crap, complete garbage. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a terrible story. And unfortunately, it's not going to get any better if people can't address the actual issues that lead to where societies no longer value life. It's just one of those things that when there's topics you can't talk about out of fear of getting canceled or censored or deplatformed, and you can't talk about the reason and the root cause of them, or how you could fix them, or what needs to be done about it, that's when it's like there's nothing else we can do. That's when you just throw in the towel and say, I'm going to go find 10 acres in Montana somewhere, or Wyoming. Hey, Oklahoma's pretty cool. By the way, I went to Oklahoma. There's nothing there. It's dirt and fields and really nice people that do nothing but eat. But even the fast food over there tastes better. But I could buy 10, 20 acres in Oklahoma somewhere and just raise my family and stay away from society. But that doesn't fix society as a whole. Oh God, no. Elon is not the savior people have claimed that he is. It's really funny too, because it's like, guys, no human is infallible. No human is perfect. But this is the thing about conservatism as a whole. When Hollywood has predominantly always been liberals, when the music industry has predominantly been liberals, even country music. Don't get me started with don't get me started with people thinking country singers are all conservative Christian right-wingers. They're not. A lot of them are not. So entertainment and media have always been liberal. And so finally nowadays, when you have people who are still liberal, but they're sensible, and so they seem conservative, conservatives are the first ones to jump on the bandwagon of, oh, we got another one. Look at that. We have somebody famous on our side. And it's like, who cares? If we don't care about the opinion of liberal people who are famous, why should we care about the opinion of a so-called conservative who's famous? They still have more money than you and me. They still have no care if what happens to the little guy, because they don't know your name. They don't your face, on Twitter. It cracks me up. It's like the Babylon Bee did they did a sketch with a black gal going to like a conservative get together at like a hotel. And everybody there was white except for her. And they were all like, oh yeah, I've got a black friend. And we listened to Tupac. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. Is society fixable? I don't know. I would like if we were just stuck in an upside down world, we could just kind of flip it on its head. That'd be fun. That'd be nice to say that, hey, we can finally fix some of this shit. I don't know that it's doable. So before I get all done here and go to bed, on the topic of like fixing society, you know what's really crazy? So I was born in 1986. So I'm a product of the 80s that grew up in the 90s, okay? You literally live in the upside down land. Yeah, he does. I was born at one of the best times because I had the influence of the music and movies from the 80s going into the 90s, where you had more of like the I don't know, everything was great. I remember the 90s being fantastic, okay? That being said, like, if you look at crime statistics from when I was a kid, I worry about my kids now getting kidnapped or killed or those horrible things that you would never want to have happen to your kids, right? But the reality is the crime statistics from the 80s were far worse, or at least significantly worse per capita. Again, we're going to throw that per capita word out there, than they are today. So my odds, my chances of having something bad happen to me when I was the same age as my kids now was actually higher in my childhood than theirs. The difference, I think, is that, how do we say this without completely flubbing it? Social media, we're exposed to it more often. We see the videos of the violence more often. So I think we're just more increasingly aware of it. And B, maybe it's localized worse in certain areas. So for example, when I was a kid, I lived in a really crappy poor area growing up in California till we moved here to Washington, and then we still lived in some crappy areas. So I was definitely in areas that could have seen something bad potentially happen to me, and there was a couple of close calls growing up. But maybe overall it was dispersed more evenly across communities than we're seeing nowadays, where nowadays most of the crime happens entirely in the big cities. I don't know where those crime statistics actually, how they compare as far as like big cities in the 80s versus big cities now, versus crimes in the country versus crimes now in the country. You know what I'm saying? Violent crime per capita. It's not that there was more crimes. It's that per 10,000 or per 100,000 people, you had a higher chance of getting, being victim of a violent crime in the 80s than now. It's just that, again, I think what we're seeing is it's more localized now, less dispersed. We did not have that in the 90s, 100%. We didn't have propaganda videos on social media. You had propaganda on the news. You had it on Dateline and CNN, and God, there were so many of those horrible old boomer news shows. Yeah, so I could be wrong, but we've actually had, believe it or not, based on actual crime statistics, the last couple of years, things aren't as bad as it looks like on social media, but you also have to weigh into it that there's a lot of crime that happens in very localized, like compacted areas where it's just completely out of control. Versus my little town I live in, where it's like, yeah, we have some crime. I think we had like one murder a year ago. And my town's got like 13,000, 14,000 people-ish, and outlying areas and stuff, so. I don't know. Yeah, everything just seems so screwed up right now. I want to think that things are fixable. It's just going to take a lot of work. And unfortunately, and fortunately, if it actually happens, it's going to require a socio shift, a cultural shift to something resembling more of a homogenous society. I don't mean like ethnically homogenous. America has not really ever been ethnically homogenous other than like the original natives and the Europeans that came here. You had like two groups of people. I mean culturally homogenous, where Americans actually care about America first, we care about each other, where we can actually respect each other's boundaries the way that we used to. There is no ad money in good news. If it bleeds, it leads. And unfortunately, I had somebody tell me I was full of shit. So John Delarose, comic creator, I follow him on Twitter, I watch his YouTube videos, and okay, I do on my other video channel, because this is my original channel that I started. Then my wife and I started the second channel, and then I kind of took over the second channel because she doesn't have time. So my main channel for posting videos is Minimal Effort Podcast. This one here, I changed my main channel to conform with our second channel. So this is my live channel for that. Long story short, my other channel pretty much covers, I'll do like one video every couple days covering Marvel, Disney, some light politics, entertainment news, social media, that kind of stuff. Most of it's negative because positivity doesn't get views. I mean, I did a video talking about how there was a Legend of Zelda live action movie that they're going to make, and there was some potentially some good things about it. Hang on, my video camera just shut off. Unfortunately, if I don't mess with it every few minutes or every 30 minutes, it shuts off. So, long story short, my video about the Legend of Zelda live action movie, nothing negative, got like 50 views. Okay? like 5 likes, 1 comment. Negative videos, I can easily get anywhere from 500 to a couple thousand across a 24-hour, 48-hour period. So John Del Rose was talking about on one of his videos about negativity and versus positivity in videos and how he doesn't like to always be negative. And I'm like, it's sad that negativity always sells far more than positivity. And someone's like, oh, you're full of shit, man, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, no. You can look at everything, news headlines, YouTube videos, thumbnails that, you know, the thumbnails that are actually attractive to people that catch their attention. It's all negative. And at some point, I would love if Disney pulled their head out of their ass. I would love if movies went back to being great. I would love if everything in our country was safe and we had a border wall and a president who knew what time of day it was. But unfortunately for content, that content doesn't sell. And that's okay. If I could make that trade 100 times over, I absolutely would. I would love to get back to where we have a little bit of normalcy in our country versus, you know, getting clicks on YouTube. But 1,000% positivity does not get the clicks that negativity does. Right, and people are drawn towards negativity. You're 100% correct about that. It's not just the algorithm. People are drawn to, they want to see the train wreck. They want to see, you know, the 5-car pileup. They want to see the worst movie that's come out since the last terrible movie. I mean, it's inevitable. It's how people are. And I don't have a problem with it. Look, if people want to consume the content they want to consume, they're allowed to do that. There are people who like horror films and there are people who like rom-coms. There are people who like thrillers and movies where the bad guy wins, and that's their right. That doesn't make them negative people. People are drawn to the content they want to watch. I mean, I didn't watch podcasts or YouTubers until a couple of years ago. You know, I just pretty much listened to music at work or whatever. 2020 kind of changed that for me. That was when I started actually paying attention to what was out there in the world. Oh, man. Yeah. But I think I'm going to wrap it up, guys, because I need to get to bed. I've got a crazy-ish week. I've been getting to bed too late, waking up too late, getting home and starting my evening activities too late, so appreciate you hanging out, though. Nice to see you, Daniel. Speak Life, appreciate it. Valiant, thanks for hanging out on Rumble. But yeah, I'm gonna try to keep this a regular thing Monday nights. Just, you know, I'll do live streams where I'm like playing a video game or whatever, like Insurgency or some, you know, Dead Space or something. But I'm gonna try to do the Monday thing regularly for actual live streams, talking about stuff. Bad over good for survival. I mean, yeah, that's wired into our brains. It's why, you know, something that you ate that tasted terrible is going to stick with you 10 years down the road over something that you enjoyed, but you can't remember where you had it or what the name of it was. Warning video or wreck, you instinctually want to check. Maybe be sure it's not the road your family's traveling. I mean, yeah. And creators do take advantage of it. Why not? It's, like I said, it's clicks. And, you know, I'm not trying to make a living on YouTube. This channel's kind of stagnant. My other channel is gaining, you know, subscribers every week. So in a few months, maybe by the end of the year, beginning of next year, I should have 1,000 subscribers on the other channel. You know, I'll get a few pennies a month from YouTube. And that'll be, at least it'll justify my time. Like I said, I'm not looking to do this for a career. It's been a hobby of mine and something that I got into after 2020, after I realized what the hell was going on in this world. I'm like, you know, I'd like to have my opinion out there. I'd like to have my voice out there too. So that's where I'm at with all that. It sucks that ad revenue is dying. It sucks that I got into this at the worst possible time because content creation is oversaturated. The market is like dying and there's too many people doing the same thing. But you know what? I'm still going to do it because I'm not doing it to make $1 million. It's for my own sanity. I already was doing the Twitch streaming thing, and that, honestly, I couldn't care less. Yeah, I still stream video games a couple nights, maybe, here and there, but Twitch is such a dumpster fire. God, that website sucks. All right, guys, I'm going to hit the hay. Thanks again. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you guys later on.